New South Wales has recorded 3 new coronavirus cases linked to the growing Northern Beaches cluster, but health authorities are concerned about a further 3 cases identified late last night and early this morning, one of them in Wollongong, about an hour south of the city. It's prompted a warning from the Premier that the coronavirus threat in Greater Sydney is nearly on par with the Northern Beaches, which remains in lockdown. Well, Kenny Heatley is at the New South Wales Health Headquarters. Kenny, those 3 cases came in late and are yet to be linked.
That's right. Yeah, we had 3 cases in today's numbers all linked to the Avalon cluster and already in isolation from just over 16,000 tests. But there were 3 which came in, 2 of them this morning and 1 at 10:30 last night. And Dr. Kerry Chant received these notifications late. They're still under investigation. But here's a bit more on those 3 cases from the Chief Health Officer.
Important to let the public know about that because the numbers overnight were actually very reassuring that we had those 3 cases and they were all in isolation. This highlights how the situation can change quite rapidly, and that's why we're mentioning those cases. But those interviews are occurring as we speak now, and we will release in the usual way if those people have been in any venues.
Now, because of the list of venues across Sydney which have public health alerts and because of these fresh cases that come through, the Premier, as you say, said the risk to Greater Sydney is now on par to the southern zone of the Northern Beaches, which has been under stay-at-home orders. Then I asked the Premier, well, does this mean that tighter restrictions are on the way for Greater Sydney? The threat for Greater Sydney being the same as the Northern Beaches, are you considering stay-at-home orders in the coming days for Greater Sydney?
Not at this stage, and we won't impose anything on our citizens unless we absolutely have to. So we're not there yet, but the higher rates of testing will give us greater confidence not to have to consider anything further for Greater Sydney.
And Kenny, police are confident they'll be able to enforce all rules in place for New Year's Eve in Sydney?
Yeah, that's right. We heard from Assistant Commissioner Michael Willing, who says that they have been working with the local councils. And, of course, there was that meeting that took place with the Sydney councils this morning with New South Wales Police and public health officials at 10 a.m. to try and clarify things ahead of New Year's Eve. Many inner-city councils have decided to close their public spaces, to close their parks, and police say that they have these move-on orders. But here's a bit more from the Assistant Commissioner.
You will see large numbers of police officers out and about in uniform and from specialist commands patrolling the greater metropolitan area like we always would during every other New Year's Eve celebration.
Now, the other information that came from this press conference was, you may remember that flight from Darwin to Sydney on the 18th of December where there was a positive case. Well, all of those flight crew members and also the passengers have tested negative and are continuing with their isolation. And there will be exit tests out of isolation as well, just to confirm that they're safe. And also the Rex flight from Sydney to Griffith, all those people have also tested negative and are staying out their isolation as well. But in terms of New Year's Eve celebrations, the Premier is pleading for Sydney-siders to increase those testing rates back up to 30,000 people, and that will give her confidence that they're getting enough of these cases, which may be going undetected at the moment with tests down around 16,000, and that may ward off Sydney getting tighter restrictions too. So it is a very interesting update that came through from the Premier and Dr. Kerry Chant. We may get more information about these 3 cases that came in late from New South Wales Health a little bit later today.